once again who can perhaps help us understand what the documentary is all about. Siddharth, we're talking about two parts to this first episode. If you could just help us understand what the contents really are, because remember the second part, I believe, is likely to be put out. It's going to be aired on the 24th of this month.
Who reacted to the documentary, and he's live with us now, first and exclusive on Times Now. Lord Rami Ranger, just to bring our viewers up to speed, you said that this documentary has caused a great deal of hurt to over 1 billion Indians. It insults a democratically elected Prime Minister, Indian police and the Indian judiciary. Why do you say that, sir?
It's very simple. First of all, you have to understand your success will bring jealousy. Your income will attract income tax. Since India is rising, you have to expect this jealousy from all over the place. You have given an Indian Prime Minister to a country which ruled you, and that is not something they are going to take it lying down. So they are very hurt that they could not produce a Prime Minister. They had to seek a Prime Minister of Indian origin. Indians are successful in the United Kingdom. The richest man is India, industrialist India. Indians are running all the blue chip company. India is a positive force. So they have to find something to feel good factor. But having done this documentary, they have scored their own goal. First, they have united the Indian as never before. Indians are going to become even more politically active and more united than ever before. Secondly, they have scored their own goal. They divided us in the subcontinent, they are dividing us in the UK, and they will damage their own social cohesion. In this country, if you have 2 million, 2.5 million people, 5 million people not talking to each other, having hatred for one another, it's going to affect Great Britain on the whole. So I think this documentary is a very short-sighted, has no vision. It doesn't look at a bigger picture. This event took place 20 years ago. Indian judiciary tried, tested everything, and Mr. Modi was exonerated. Now he is the most powerful Prime Minister and the most respected Prime Minister in the world. What do? They cannot rise above him. So what they do, they try to dig some dirt and to throw mud at him. But this is not going to affect India or Prime Minister Modi. They are irrelevant force now. Yes. Indian economy is stronger, and India is surging at the speed of 7 to 8% per annum. So they need India, and they have to be very careful that they don't damage the relationship which we are trying to build with the UK-India trade deal, which we are working behind the scene.
Are you saying, sir, that the intent was malicious? What do you think is the intent?
Intent is to feel good and to put people down. Mr. Modi is the most popular Prime Minister in the world. So therefore, to find some stupid thing, what happened? I mean, how can you implement a Prime Minister of a state when he was not even present, what the things take place? But anyway, it is all in bad faith. They are going to get a very negative publicity. I'm writing to the Director General of BBC asking him, this was totally biased piece. They collected people who were anti-Modi. They never ever asked people why Muslims are voting more for Modi, why Muslim women are respecting Mr. Modi. They never ever, Mr. Modi had done more for the ethnic minority. I'm a Sikh myself. I would like to touch his feet for what he's done for the Sikh community.
Lord Ranger, I just want you to please have patience for a minute, because yesterday this issue was raised inside the UK Parliament and had Rishi Sunak responding. I want to play it out for our viewers and get your opinion on that. Let's listen in to how this issue was raised inside the UK Parliament. Listen.
Mr. Speaker, last night the BBC revealed the Foreign Office knew the extent of Narendra Modi's involvement in the Gujarat massacre that paved the way for the persecution of Muslims and other minorities we see in India today, with senior diplomats reporting that the massacre could not have taken place without a climate of impunity created by Modi, and that he was, in the FCO's own words, directly responsible for this violence. Given that hundreds were brutally killed and that families across India and the world, including here in the UK, are still without justice. Does the Prime Minister agree with his diplomats in the Foreign Office that Modi was directly responsible, and just what more does the Foreign Office know of his involvement in this grave act of ethnic cleansing?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the UK government's position on this has been clear and long-standing and hasn't changed. Of course, we don't tolerate persecution where it appears anywhere, but I'm not sure I agree at all with the characterisation that the honourable gentleman has put forward.
Lord Ranger, the fact that a member of parliament there said that this is ethnic cleansing, your thoughts?
He's a liar. He said that in Parliament. Had he said that outside the Parliament, I would have sued him. But first of all, we reported to the Foreign Office, and this is the reply we got from the Foreign Office. I repeat, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I was in the House of Commons chamber at the time of this man speaking. This was not approved by us and does not reflect the front men. I have raised this with the leader of the office. So this man, Pakistani, the usual style, no merit. They just want to use religion and violence to get something for nothing. This is how they surge ahead. They are totally let down by their leaders. They never tell them to achieve success. But religion, if religion had the power, Bangladesh would be still part of their country. They massacred 2 million Muslims in the name of religion. They're totally out of date leaders. They have no idea which way the world is going, and they are spinning at the same place since 1947. They created two countries. They divided India. They attacked Kashmir in 1948, an independent state. They had Osama bin Laden in their country. What have they not done? They do not feel ashamed of their action, of their leaders, what they've done. Today, they are begging everybody for £1 billion, billion here, billion there. Adani can give them 10 billion each. That is the state of this country. In 1947, two countries were created. One to promote people on the basis of religion, the other one to promote people regardless of religion. One has become a most dangerous country, and the other one has become the most positive country. Look where India is going, look Pakistan is going. This Pakistan have let the community down, and this is the state. Is Mr. Modi responsible for the economical downfall of Pakistan? Is Modi responsible for them being blacklisted? What are they talking about? Just blaming others and not doing anything themselves. Total unacceptable indictment of the Pakistani leaders.
Mr. Ranger, we also had an opportunity to actually speak to one of the participants in the documentary, and he said that the documentary filmmakers appear to have already arrived at a conclusion about Mr. Modi, and the few spattering BJP voices that you actually see in the documentary were just in a very token manner an attempt to balance out the predominant narrative of the documentary in question. So in that light, what's your prescription, sir? Do you believe that the BJP should now, the BBC rather, should now hold this back? Should it pull down the documentary? What would your advice be?
कुत्ते भौंकते हैं, काफले चलते हैं. We should keep on moving, never pay attention to these idiots. That's their work, and that's what they'll keep on doing. They've been doing that since 1947, and they will keep on blaming India for their misfortune. I think they all created, stage managed. The BBC has lost its standing in the world. It used to be, now it's a biased broadcasting corporation, or rather than people are saying bakwas broadcasting corporation. They have no respect left in the world. At one time they were respected, because to bring this kind of documentary and not talk about positive things which Mr. Modi has done for the ethnic community, and how the 1.3 billion people, the most diverse country in the world, most religion, most culture, most languages, most everything, living side by side for centuries, ever since the creation of the world. So they should know our history, our civilization is over 6,000 years ago. We say Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The word is our village. For us, we have never conquered any country. We have never forced anybody to change their religious level. We have been the victim right from the day one, and this BBC should make the persecution of Mughals, of Hindus, that would be more appropriate, so the Muslim leader can learn had the Muslim leader empowered their women and spent money on education, they would still be ruling after ruling 1,000 years. And this is the state of this community because they have been let down by their leader. And I'm very open critic of the Muslim leaders. They have no idea which way the world is going and which way they're going back to 7th century Arabia when they could take sword and conquer the world and whatever. They have to rise on merit and they cannot pick holes on people just for feel-good factor. I think it's totally out of order. If I were you, I ignore this documentary.
Okay.
They have no. Mr. Modi is a very tough leader. He has seen it before. He has seen it. He will see it again because his success will bring him a lot of enemies because you only feel jealous of people who are successful, then you don't feel jealous of people who are below you or who's not going anywhere. So therefore, it's a matter of pride for us that the BBC think that our Prime Minister will, just like that, will be ruffled. Not at all. We will be united and will be robust force in the United Kingdom, and we will show how we will rise to the level when we used to be as golden chili, soda ki chili. We're going back to this level.
Mr. Ranger, now the documentary actually begins with an account of an eyewitness testimony, basically of a British Muslim who lost his family members at the time in Gujarat in 2002. There is also the argument being put forward that that can't be ignored and that this particular documentary has also been made for a British audience, which is why it begins with a British narrative. How would you respond to those who are defending this documentary along those lines, sir?
I lived in this country for over 50 years, half a century, and these guys have never encouraged Muslims to move with the time. They never allow their women to be empowered. They are king of divide and rule, and they are dividing Hindus and Muslims of this community so we don't get united and we can help each other, support each other. Their narrative is to keep them divided, and they do not know the consequences of this division because one community is not progressing like the other one. So therefore, this is a scoring own goal. I think BBC will listen to my criticism. I have criticized them on Twitter all the time that you have to. We now have one country, one king. We have become one. You do not stir up religious hatred in this country, or India is not going to take notice of you. And we know your modus operandi is to bring people down. What about your own country? You should also think. You should also bring a documentary on the way millions of people were killed during partition thanks to your divide and rule policy. How many millions of people were uprooted, became refugees in the country of their origin? My father was assassinated for opposing the breakup of India. I never saw my father thanks to this divide and rule policy. Yeah, one day I will take action against them for creating a country without plebiscite, without referendum, or arbitrarily they divided communities which have lived for centuries together. I think the time has come that when the time comes, I will be challenging them for the legality of partition.
Mr. Ranger, you make a very pertinent point. In fact, many people on the social media have also been questioning the BBC as to why they don't produce a documentary, for instance, on the Bengal famine in the 1940s that also killed millions. But Prime Minister Rishi Sunak as well as Prime Minister Modi share a very healthy equation. The two of them have met on the sidelines of the G20 summit as well. How do you see the relations between the two countries going forward in the light of what has happened? Because what Mr. Sunak said is very significant. He said he does not accept a characterization of this nature.
We all admire Mr. Modi, including Rishi. I know Rishi very closely, very dear friend. We all admire what Mr. Modi, leading 1.3 billion people in the most challenging circumstances with COVID, with the two unfriendly neighbors, one communist, one religious. You know, they have nothing in common with the world. Their only forces are bad forces. So, Prime Minister to lead the country and make it a country which is now respected in the world is not palatable to some. So therefore, we admire, everybody admires Mr. Modi across the world. Mr. Modi is the only leader which is respected not only by Putin but also by Biden. That is a sense of diplomacy that you are respected by both the rival camps. So think we are very fortunate to have a leader like Mr. Modi. We should preserve it, keep it, respect him, unite behind him for the sake of our own country. United we stand, divided we fall. And if the Muslim community, my message to them is, you have to move with the time. You have to empower your women. You have to spend money on education, and you should not become. Sikhs are also a very minority, but they are giving langar to people, free food to people. They never complain. They never blame people. They are giving free food to anybody. They don't convert people. They respect women from day one. So you have to follow what you want to be. If you want to become a relevant force in the 21st century, you have to empower. I'm a single parent child. I feel passionately that if a husband dies prematurely like my father did, he will leave behind a woman unable to deal with the world and mother unable to look after children. My 5 brothers were commissioned officers in the Indian Army. She became the proudest mother. Having lost her ancestral home, country and husband, she rose to the challenge because she was educated. Let's learn from the positive story rather than trying to spin at the same place for centuries. So my request to my Muslim reader is, please, you have a secular and democratic country where equality is enshrined in the Constitution. Diversity is not only accepted but respected, but also protected through the laws. Yes. Nobody can discriminate against anyone on the basis of any race, religion or gender. So they are equal. They should be equal. They should really take advantage of what India has to offer as united. You can see what Pakistan has to offer. You can see Afghanistan has to offer. You are very fortunate that India has landed on Mars, landed on Moon. India has been a forefront in the COVID battle. India's IT industry, pharmaceutical industry, film industry, you name it. And
absolutely. Very pertinent points raised by you, Mr. Rami Ranger. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Rishi Sunak also saying that this amounts to a mischaracterization as well. We thank you for your inputs. We have to now turn our attention to a press conference underway